Hi, this is the OFBI peer review orientation, excuse me, webinar. And this is going to take you through the process of understanding what we want from our peer reviewers, how to access the information, the documents that we're going to be sending you that you need to complete. And this webinar should answer all your questions. It should. Let's see what happens. So this is the OFBI peer review orientation webinar. So our online application process is administered through the Systems for Administering Grants Electronically, SAGE systems, right? And the requirements are that you can access it through Windows and or Macintosh. The web browser that you must access SAGE through is either Internet Explorer, but that's obsolete now. So a lot of systems aren't operating that one. Firefox, Safari, or Microsoft Edge. Do not use Google Chrome to access SAGE. Why? Because Google Chrome is not compatible to SAGE. So let's say you use Google Chrome because you forgot what this webinar was trying to say to you, and you input your scores, and then it looks like you saved it, you hit save, and then when we get it, there's nothing in there. So again, do not use Google Chrome. You must have Adobe Acrobat Reader because a lot of the documents in SAGE, you can only download them as PDF documents. You are all currently registered in SAGE. So the web address is www.sage.nj.gov. Each of you will be part of a panel, and you will be emailed your username and password. For those of you that have reviewed for us before and have changed your password but do not remember it, you must go through the forgot password procedure to obtain a new password. Now here's the trick with that. When you click forgot password, you need to use the email that we're going to be sending you that you registered in SAGE with. If you use another email, you're never going to get the password. So our staff is going to send you your email, which is the one registered in SAGE, and that's the email that you put in when you forgot your password. Now, when you get your generated password from SAGE, you cannot copy and paste it. You must insert each character individually, then hit enter or log in, and then you'll be prompted to create a new password. All right. If you forgot your username, we can help you, but you shouldn't, because the email that we're going to send you will have your username and email, and we'll take it from there. Okay. All right. Part 2. The peer review commitment, right? Each peer review must be available to complete and rate all applications and submit initial scores and comments on identified due dates, and enter final scores and final comments on agreed upon deliberation dates. Now this is the key, right? So you're going to be sent, if you haven't received it yet, you will receive an email with your panel, right? The list of organizations that you're going to be reviewing, but with the grant number, and the due dates for your initial scores, and then the due date for your deliberation. You're going to be signing documents. That's a contract between you and the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives. If your initial scores are not submitted at least a week before your deliberation date, we will terminate the contract with you. We will reschedule the deliberation date, identify an alternate peer reviewer, and have them review all the applications that you couldn't or wouldn't or just forgot to review. All right. It's not fair for the other panels that have done their work for one of the panel members on the day of deliberation that did not submit their initial score. So you need to be on top of that. The role of the reviewers. Reviewers will review each application thoroughly and objectively. You're not going to be asked to recommend funding amounts. However, review panels do generally make recommendations regarding funding cutoffs and or should an application be funded, yes or no. We ask that you review the grant guidelines so that you are thoroughly familiar with the program prior to beginning the evaluation. Each panel will receive its grant guidelines when they receive the list of the list of peer reviewers that they're going, the list of applications that they're going to review. But if you want to download the grant guidelines, you go to this link here and you'll be able to download the grant guidelines, or you can just Google the New Jersey Office of Faith-Based Initiatives, click grant information, and it'll take you to our grant guidelines. All right. Role of the reviewer. Right, so each of you will be asked to read and sign the conflict of interest statement. You'll be asked to read and sign the agreement, specification, and peer review orientation document. Now, what does that look like? I'm gonna show you right now so that nobody's confused. So this is the conflict of interest document. That before we can even create a panel, we need to make sure that there is or there isn't a conflict of interest, so that we can make sure that you're not placed in a panel where there might be a potential conflict of interest. If you think there's a conflict of interest, even if you think there's a perception of a conflict of interest, insert that organization here, and then we will follow up with you and have a conversation and determine whether it is or it is not a conflict of interest. But you need to submit this. I think the due date, you will email this document and you have a due date. We need this done because this will delay our ability to create panels. The agreement document, which will be sent, when we get closer to the deliberation date, will be an agreement between you and the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives, and this will be the stipend amount here. You will have to type your name up here and type your name on the bottom here. You will have to include your vendor ID and the date. Now, if you don't have the vendor ID, that's going to delay your payment, right? I think that, not that I think, staff has sent all peer reviewers information on NJ Start, where you should update your banking information and ask for a direct deposit or ACH. It's the quickest way to get your money. If you're going to go through the regular hard check way, paper check, it's gonna take a few weeks to get your money. All right, so I suggest that you register for ACH. The peer review orientation overview is simply a rehash of what this webinar is going to talking to you about. There's also a section down here that talks about a code of conduct, code of ethics, conflict of interest, confidentiality, review process. We'll need you to sign your name on the bottom and date it. And then finally, the specification of services. So we need you to read that. I'm not going to read this verbatim. We need you to read this, and make sure that you understand number 7, right? Number 8. Peer reviewers will receive their full stipend if they completely comply by reading and evaluating all of their assigned applications, actively participate in the video conferences, submit their final scores, and agree to fund or not fund the applicant. If any of the above is not completed in full, the peer reviewer will not be compensated. That's it. There's not going to be a conversation about it. If you had 20 applications and you reviewed 12, you're not going to be compensated for the 12 that you reviewed. We need the entire process completed. Once you read this, once you receive this, we need you to sign it and date it. All of these forms, the agreement page, the conflict of interest, the agreement page, the peer review overview, and the specification of services are all PDF fillable. All right, let me go back to all right. So we also are going to need you to evaluate all applications, all sections. It's very critical that there's going to be text boxes that you need to justify your scores, right? We need you to be able to justify your scores, because at the end of the day, those organizations that are denied funding, they're going to ask us why they were denied funding, and we need to give them substantial feedback from you to justify the score. Now, some of the organizations may score high, but we don't have enough money to get to them. They'll understand that. And some of the organizations will score low, and they're going to want to know, what can they do to improve their application for next year? And it really depends on your feedback in each of those sections. Okay. Evaluation process. Process begins when you start your review of the application assigned. The evaluation requires that you provide detailed commentary on each of the criteria I stated. Not applicable, NA will not be accepted. You have to put substantial feedback. Like, think about it as if you were applying, what would you like to know based on the score that you put down, right? Any additional information will be provided via email in relation to date, procedures, delays, etc. Stipends. So you all received information on New Jersey Start. This is the number. This is the website. It's a lot easier to email them if you have any questions. If you're registering for the first time, you must register online and register with your NJ Start as a vendor. You need your tax ID number, your social security number, your company name, which would be your name, and you enter your email address. And then they'll give you your your vendor ID number. Payments will be processed after deliberations are completed. Payments will not be received, or you will not receive payments if you have not registered an NJ Start. The OFBI has not received your required sign, and/or if the OFBI has not received the 4 signed completed documents that we need in order for you to contract with us. Right. Part 3. The grant guidelines, format and scoring. So houses of worship, public, private, and charter schools are not eligible, but they can be collaborating partners. The reason why we don't fund houses of worship is because our funding is state taxpayer based, and our state taxpayer dollars cannot be used for the provision of social service to religious organizations. It's been that way for the last 22 years, and it's not going to change anytime soon, right? Grant application. So we have a total of 4 grant applications: social innovation, and the subcategories are college readiness program, youth entrepreneurship and STEM or STEAM, special projects. The subcategories are civic and community engagement, tutoring and homework assistance, services to seniors, and food security. The other application is Project Atlas. Atlas is an acronym for Applied Training Lasting Solutions, and SEED, so social enterprise entrepreneurship grant. Now, in order to be considered for funding, when you review an application for social innovation, applicants must score a 70 or higher in order to be considered for funding. For special projects, applicants must score a 70 or higher. For Project Atlas, applicants must score a 60 or higher. Here's why Project Atlas is different. Project Atlas is a capacity building grant, and a lot of the organizations that are applying for Project Atlas are lacking the internal mechanisms and infrastructure in order to make them efficient in their day-to-day operations. And if we hold them, and if we get, a lot of them score under 70. And so we want to give them a fighting chance to receive funding so that they can start learning how to be a more functional organization, right? And so when you read, the grant guidelines, you'll understand what Project Atlas is all about. In order to be considered for funding under SEED, there's a combined written and pitched. The combined written and pitched score must be a 70 or higher. So the max written score is 70 for SEED. Written scores 40 or higher can be moved to the pitch. The max pitch score is 30. The combined written and pitch score must be 70 or higher to be recommended for funding, right? So it's so if, let's say the max written score is 39, and let's say they blow it out of the park with a 30 and they score a 30 for the pitch. Well, 30 and 39 is 69. So they won't get funded because you need a combined score of 70 or higher to move forward, all right, to be considered. And part 4, accessing and rating the application via Sage. So tips to remember, listen, Sage doesn't have an automatic save button. So you need to, no matter what you do on a particular page, even if it never hurts to click the save button before you leave a page. It just never hurts. So I think, you need to do that, because if you don't and you move on to another page without saving, the work that you did on that page is lost. Again, do not use the browser button, right? Do not use the browser button to go back, because what that does, it creates multiple pages. Use the back button within Sage. Do not use Google Chrome, as I discussed it earlier. Do not click on the back button on your browser. It will create multiple versions. I just said that. Do not forget to make detailed comments. They are integral and crucial to the application process. Do not forget your initial score submission and deliberation dates. Do not assume scores are based on the integrity of the application, right? We don't need you to do extra research on an organization. Don't do it. The application is based on the merit of the application that you're reviewing. We don't need you to do a board of directors search. We don't need none of that. Just base it on the merit of the application, all right? If you have any questions, you will be assigned a program. Each panel will be assigned a program officer. It will either be Justin Higgs, Luisa Soto, or Zainab Tabassum. All right, but so within the next week or two, each panel will be assigned a program officer. If you have any questions about the peer review process, or if you have any questions about NJ Start, if you have any questions about anything, you will reach out to your assigned program officer. All right, so now we're going to go live. We're going to go to www.sage.nj.gov, and I'm going to walk you through how to access your application. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. So here we are. So this is this is Sage. This is our demo site. It looks like the live site, but it is the site that we use to educate and to test applications and things of that nature. So when you get to www.sage.nj.gov, you put in your username, which you'll already have. I'm going to put in our test username, and then you put in your password. Now here's the deal with the password. If you put in the wrong password like 3 times, you're going to be locked out of Sage for, I don't know, 30 minutes. So don't call us. I mean, you can call us and say, oh, I'm locked out of Sage. The first question we're going to ask you, well, how many, do you know your password? Is this a password you use? And if you say, no, I forgot my password, I thought this, I thought that, then we're going to just say, oh, you're locked out for 30 minutes. Just sit tight for 30 minutes and then go back in with the correct password. So when you put in your password, you click login. So by the time you get your username and password, and staff has already created the panels, and when you go in, you're going to gain access to your My Task box, My Inbox, and then you're going to have a My Task page. Under the My Task page, you will see the funding category that your panel will be reviewing. So it'll be OFBI special projects, and it'll be, I don't know, services to seniors, or it'll be, you won't get different applications. Like if you're reviewing services to seniors, all your applications are services to senior grants applications. If you're receiving food security, if you're reviewing food security, all your applications that you'll be reviewing are for food security. If you're reviewing homework and tutorial, all the applications that you're reviewing are for homework and tutorial. Same thing with social innovation. If you're reviewing college readiness, all your applications are college readiness. If you're reviewing STEM, you're not going to get a hodgepodge of applications. So once you get into the My Task page, you open up the drop-down box, and then these will be the applications that are assigned to you, right? And then what we need you to do is make sure that the grant number, which is this number, correlates with the list that you received from staff. So that we've done our due diligence, but we just want you to make sure that you know what you're reviewing. But before we go, so you click on the grant number, OFBI 22SP-001, or whatever that grant number is for you. We're using social innovation, but we're using special projects, but the steps are all the same for all the funding categories. Then you click on the number, and then you'll be brought to the application page. This is critical. This part is critical. You need to read the application. You can read the application in two ways, right? You can either click this where it says create full print version, and what happens is that you'll be prompted to download this, right? That's why you need PDF. You'll be able to download the specific application and then review it. If you're fortunate to have a double monitor, it'll work great, because you can have this application on one monitor and then the actual rating sheet on another monitor, because you're gonna have to get a sense of what are they saying in each section. And also it's suggested that you at least read the grant guidelines so you have a basic understanding of what they're applying for, whether it's civic and community engagement, tutoring, homework assistance, food security, services to seniors. There's a brief description of what each funding category is. That's the same thing for college readiness, STEM, and youth entrepreneurship, and SEED. And then if you scroll down to the application requirements, the rating sheets are based off of these descriptions. And so there, you need to rate them based on what's being asked here on these bullets. You can't be making up bullets. You can't be, going, you rate them on these bullets per section, all right? And then there's a maximum point section for them here, right? So you need to have the grant guidelines available to you. So we're going back to the, to Sage, which is here. All right. So once you download the application, once you have the application, because you're going to need that, because you're going to need to know what exactly they wrote in each section, and the application aligns with the rating sheet, and the rating sheets and the application align with the grant guidelines. Right? So in order to start reviewing these sections, so that's one way. You can download the application this way, or you can read each section individually in Sage. You can go to project summary, and then you can read the project summary here. This is a test. You can read the project summary here, and then you can take down your notes, whatever way works for you, whatever way works for you. So to get to the rating sheets, you hover over forms, you scroll down to rating sheet, and you click rating sheet. So everyone on your panel will be reviewing the same applications, because we need 3 separate scores per application. So this is your application. You've already done the conflict of interest, so we're not going to put you in a panel where there is a conflict of interest. So then here's the section. The first section is project summary. So it's asking you, did the applicant provide the title of the project, the amount requested, and the purpose of the funding request, right? You're going to have to read in the application itself, did they do that? And then the max score for this bullet is 2.5. The total score is 5 points. So you can put anywhere between 0 and 2.5. If any peer reviewer in your panel or on any panel puts a 0, you're going to have to discuss that, especially if one puts a 0 and the other two put, I don't know, 1.5 or a 2.0, because something is a mess here, because either the person who put the 0 in just made a mistake, it was an input error, and or he or she just didn't see what was going on, and or the people that put in a 1 or a 2.0 just gave an arbitrary score without actually reading it. So you're going to have a conversation with that. Each section needs to be filled in, and then this is where you put your comments to justify the scores that you gave here. They need to be substantive comments so that we can justify it moving forward. And then you do the same thing for the next section, organizational capacity. You have to read the grant guidelines to understand what are they being asked for. You have to read the application section for this section to make sure that the grantee actually answered this bullet, and then you give it the appropriate score. Right? So you insert the points here. The points cannot exceed, or Sage won't allow you to exceed the maximum point required per section. And then in the comments section, you insert your comments. And you do that for all the sections in the application. right? So there is the statement of needs section, there is a statement of collaboration section, there is a project description, which covers project design, target population, project goals and objectives, evaluation, and then you insert your comments. And then when you get down to the budget, were all budget forms completed in Sage? Did the applicant exceed the 85% in its personnel costs? All of that information is in the grant guidelines. Now, there are some suggested expenditures in the grant guidelines. They can spend, I don't know, money on staff development. There's the max that they can spend on equipment. There's a max that they can spend on administrative costs. Those are suggested expenditures for the organization. Whether they use them or not, it shouldn't be held against them. It's up to them to decide whether they want to do that. So after you, do all the ratings for each section, Sage is tabulating this number, right? It could be 100, it could be 50, it could be 30, it could be 95, whatever it is. You're going to have to indicate strengths and weaknesses, right? And then on the bottom, for the draft, do you recommend them for funding? Well, if they're 70 or higher, the answer should be yes, unless there's some information in the application that you found that was like crazy. You need, if they scored a 70 or higher on the weaknesses, you need to say, yeah, they scored a 70 or higher, but I don't recommend them for funding because of A, B, and C, right? And then you click yes, you scroll to the top, and there's no save button here, but there will be a save button when you do it, and you click save. Once the initial scores are submitted, then the applications will be all the applications assigned to the panel will be moved to at-home review final. And at-home review final is during your deliberation is where you come up with a consensus of what each of you are going to put down for the final rating. Now, if there are no zeros here, right? And one scored at a 1.0, another scored at a 0.5, and another scored at a 2, there's no need to have a conversation. If you're comfortable with that score that you initially put, then you just transfer that score over. The only scores that you have to have a conversation on is if any panel member in the preliminary scoring put a 0 in here. Then you have to have a conversation, and then either the person who put a 0 goes up, or the people that put a whole number go down. So it's either everybody gives it a 0, or the person who gave it a 0 is influenced by the panel to, yo, you got to move it up, man, because you missed something. Maybe it was like 2 in the morning and you got confused or something, but nah, they answered that question, and this is how they answered the question. Once you do that for each section under the, for your deliberation final, and you all put in the score, Sage will tabulate it here, and then your final would be, do you recommend it for funding, yes or no? If it's a 70 or higher, and if there's no nothing crazy that says to you as a panel, yeah, you can fund them, then you click yes, you scroll up to the top, and you click save. We will have a peer review. One of the assigned program managers to the panel will email you your Zoom calendar invite for your deliberation date. The deliberation date needs to be agreed upon by everybody on the panel. It's not going to start until after the 4th of July. You can deliberate on Saturdays, you can deliberate on Sundays, you can deliberate late at night, you could deliberate early in the morning, you could deliberate any day of the week that you want to get this done. All right. I think I'm done with this. Let me see. So listen, I'm really happy that one of the things that we're going to make sure is that we don't have any rookie peer reviews, meaning that peer reviewers that have never reviewed for us, when all 3 will not be rookies. You're going to be assigned a veteran, meaning a person that has reviewed for us in the past. So that person can, talk you through and help you through the process of the final deliberation. All right. So thanks a lot for being part of this. You know, we want to get the money out. We want to help these organizations. So if you have any questions, once you get your assigned program manager, please reach out to them. Thanks a lot again. Bye-bye.